Vital Intellect presents Royal Jelly, Chapter 6, Done Dirt Cheap. She lies in her bed on her back as her client is on top of her, sweating, panting, thrusting. She looks off to the side, staring at her dresser as he continues, breathing heavier and heavier. Her eyesight blurs as she begins to disassociate. He picks up his pace and begins to moan. He lets out a loud groan and pushes into her hard and deep. He lets out a sigh and lays his heavy, sweaty body atop her, his face buried into the pillow. Athena is relieved he is done. The smell of his musk starts to overwhelm her, and she does not want him falling asleep on her again. She sighs and taps his shoulder. "Okay, Ian. You're done, and your time is up." He moans in aggravation and mumbles, "Oh, come on." "Up," she demands. "Just give me a few minutes. I'll pay." Athena rolls her eyes and makes an excuse. "I have another client coming, so time's up." Ian groans again, and Athena pushes him off her. "Get off!" Ian lays on his back, still breathing heavily, looking at the ceiling. Athena gets up and goes to her bathroom. She looks at herself in the mirror. Her hair is out, long, uncombed and tangled. She is still wearing her bra but nothing else. She looks to her left arm, staring at the stump where her elbow used to be. A numbness comes over her until she snaps herself out of it, blinking her eyes hard. She turns on her sink faucet and throws some water on her face. She grabs a washcloth and cleans her genitalia. Luckily, the condom stayed on this time, so her cleanup is light. "When is your next client going to be here?" Ian asks. "Soon," Athena answers. "So you better be up out of my bed." Ian moans again and responds, "Fine." As Athena comes back into her room, Ian is dressing himself. Athena does the same, putting on some tight-fitting jeans and a cut-off t-shirt that shows her midriff. The shirt, a faded fuchsia color, has a stain on it. Athena feels she should grab another shirt, but then loses motivation. Ian grabs his things off Athena's dresser, pockets them, and heads for the exit. Before he leaves, he looks at Athena, already standing by the door. "You know, if you cleaned up a bit, you'd be way hotter," Ian comments. Athena's temper begins to rise at the comment. She poises herself and answers sarcastically, "Gee, thanks." She tilts her head and gives him a phony smile. "Now go." Ian examines Athena for a moment, then says, "I was there, you know. I saw you at the arena." He pauses and then says, "I shouldn't be able to afford you." Athena scowls, then opens her door. Ian leaves. After he's gone, she looks around her room. She observes her queen-sized bed with a metallic headboard covered in chipped bronze-colored paint. There's a love seat in the far corner next to a dirty window, where white sunlight is filtered through, harsh and unrelenting. A small TV sits atop an old wooden desk. She doesn't think it works anymore. She hasn't attempted to turn it on in months. There is a pile of unwashed clothes in the next corner leading up her dresser by the entrance. She sighs to herself, slumps her shoulders forward, and exits the room. She is on the second floor of the brothel, an old, dirty building filled with every hue of brown. She walks out to the hallway where the downstairs is visible across the banister. She looks down to the first floor, into the bar area. There are round tables with tricks being tempted by her fellow workers to their rooms and in their beds. She walks down the hallway on her way to the stairs. She makes her way down the stairs and to the bar. She looks at the bartender, Jose. He is talking to a man, then makes eye contact with Athena. As she approaches, he hands her a bottle of whiskey. She takes it and sits at one of the round tables. One of the tricks walks up to her with a smile, tapping her shoulder. She shrugs him off and he walks away. She settles the bottle on the table in front of her and stares at it for a moment. She opens it, takes a swig, and feels immediate relief. She settles the bottle back down and thinks of Ian's words. He shouldn't be able to afford her. Sure, Athena, favorite prospect of last year's arena qualifiers. That person no one could afford, even touch. But a one-armed prostitute at a rundown brothel, that is a different person. After she woke up in the hospital, after being in a coma for weeks, discovering the extent of her injuries, she had a hard time coming to terms with her new reality. Beyond that, she could not overcome the shame of losing her team during the qualifier. The vision of Jennifer with that bullet hole in her forehead would keep flashing through her memory. She couldn't imagine returning to the slave camp, defeated, shamed. She could not face Gabriella, having failed her, having failed them all. As soon as she was able to, she left the hospital before she was visited by the likes of Gabriella or Luis. She wandered the streets of the capital for days. She slept in alleyways and on park benches. She was in a haze, unable to bring herself back to the slave camp in this sorry state. She turned to selling her body. She needed the money, and she needed it fast. During her time here, Ian is not the only person who recognized her. As people became aware that the great gladiator Athena was in their midst, they began to come and hire her for a different reason. Even with one arm, she is a gifted killer. She began to take petty contracts. At first, she would just take jobs roughing people up who owed money and the like. Eventually, she started to take assassination contracts. She became a murderer for hire, a crippled thug willing to take a life for small payment. Athena continues to drink from her bottle, slowly disappearing into a stupor. Before the alcohol could fully overcome her consciousness, she hears someone ask for her at the bar. She turns to the bar and sees Jose pointing at her. A woman, middle-aged, turns and looks at Athena. Athena looks away and groans to herself. The woman walks towards her, and Athena puts her head down slightly, allowing her unruly hair to partly cover her face. The woman stands over Athena's shoulder and asks, "Excuse me?" Athena does not answer and turns her body away from the woman. The woman stands behind her for a moment before coming around and sitting on a chair at the table. She settles in her seat, putting her large pocketbook on her lap and grasping its handles tight. She looks at Athena's face and asks, "You're Athena? Yes? I heard I can hire you." Athena, her eyes looking down at the table, hidden behind her long hair, remains motionless and does not answer the woman. The woman, now searching for Athena's eyes, leans in and asks, "Hello?" Athena finally answers, "Room is $200 an hour. $1,000 a night. But sorry, I don't take on women clients." The woman pauses, then replies, "It's my husband." Athena knows what the woman wants to hire her for, but she continues to play coy, saying, "Sure, I can take him on, but you can't be in the room." The woman puts her hand down on the table, in line with Athena's sight. Athena looks at the hand, then at the woman's face. Her eyes are wide, with a worried expression. There are frown lines all along the sides of her mouth. Her thin lips are tinted with red lipstick. Her fair-complexioned face is framed by her black, curly locks. Athena narrows her gaze at the woman, who is refusing to break eye contact. "My husband? I need you to follow him." "That's not what I do," answers Athena, breaking eye contact with the woman, looking to her bottle. "I need to know if he's cheating on me," the lady continues. "There's private investigators for that, lady," Athena answers as she grabs her bottle, taking a swig. The lady continues as Athena drinks. There's more to it. Athena settles the bottle on the table and gives out a sigh, replying, "Do tell." The lady looks around herself for a moment and leans closer to Athena. "I need you to see if he's cheating on me. Make sure." Athena looks up to the lady. "And if he is?" The lady looks around herself again. Athena sighs, and before she has a chance to answer her question, Athena asks her, "Is there no other way?" The lady's brow furrows, and she answers Athena, "If there is, I don't care to know." Athena sits back in her chair. She pushes her hair away from her face and examines the woman. Her stressed, desperate expression, her tight, fearful demeanor. She wears a plain yet expensive overcoat. The purse she clutches is designer. She took a risk coming to the seedy part of town, and she knows it. She is desperate. Athena has seen the type far too often. She will pay. Athena will discover her husband is cheating. She will kill the husband, and the woman will regret it the moment he's gone. From there, she'll simply disappear or obsessively contact Athena, making sure she wasn't seen and that there's no way the murder can be traced back to her. That, or she'll become paranoid, attempt to turn in Athena to the authorities, in which case Athena will have to go underground for a while and kill the lady. This has happened to her before, and she normally avoids cases like this because of it. Athena looks to the lady and says, "Listen, try counseling first. Lot less regrets, lot less final." Athena stands and grabs her bottle. She begins to leave the table, and the woman yells, "I'll pay twice your asking price. In full, right now, cash." Athena stops walking forward. She turns to the lady and asks, "You're not stupid, right? Crazy?" The lady stares at Athena for a moment, then says, "I need to know. And if he is, I want him gone." Her voice shook as she reaffirmed with Athena. Athena stares at the woman for a moment. She looks at the floor, groans to herself, then sits back down at the table. The next night, Athena is in the restaurant district of the city. She has already caught up with a husband, seen him pick up a young woman, and drive her to a nice hotel. A couple of hours later, they both leave the hotel and are now at a foreign restaurant having dinner. They parked in a garage behind the restaurant building, which requires them to walk down an alleyway to gain access. Athena waits in that alley. She sits on the ground, her back against the wall. She waits there, looking to the ground. Pedestrians pay her no mind, most likely assuming she's homeless or a junkie. She sits there, waiting in an almost meditative manner. She occasionally feels for the pocket knife in her right pocket, turning it in place. She would at times look at her stump where her left arm was. She'll stare at it mindlessly, then catch herself. She would shake her head as if she was waking from a dream. As she would focus back onto the moment, she would stare at the mouth of the alley where the man and his date would eventually come. She hopes to herself that he does not put up too much of a fight and prays that the young woman does not get involved. Minutes later, the two finally appear. Athena glances up at them and looks back down at the ground. The two are conversing, holding on to each other, and laughing. Athena waits for the pair to pass, then stands. She walks behind them. She examines the man, noticing he is about an inch taller than her with bulky shoulders. He seems out of shape otherwise, so he should still be an easy mark. Athena walks up behind the man, unnoticed. She wants to stab him in the artery in his neck, so she must position herself at his side or in front of him. She decides to bump his right shoulder, as if she is walking past, making him turn towards her and giving her the opening she needs. Athena grasps the knife in her pocket and unfolds it with her one hand and mouth. She picks up her pace, walks alongside the couple, and bumps the man's shoulder. He reacts fast, turning to her immediately, exasperating. Athena excuses herself, then looks at the man's face, seeing his nervous and shocked expression. Athena, not expecting the man to react so strongly, decides to go for it anyway, even though she does not have a proper opening. She takes the knife out of her pocket and thrusts it towards his neck. The man stops Athena's attack, blocking her forearm with his own. The woman he's with looks on and begins to scream, holding her face. Athena pushes the knife towards the man in a failed attempt to overpower him. The man pushes back against Athena. The two struggle for a bit before the man decides to take his free hand, push it against the side of Athena's face. He's strong, and he's beginning to put some distance between them. Athena pushes back with all her strength, and eventually the man's hand slips, scratching Athena across her ear and the side of her face. "Shit!" Athena screams in reaction. She looks to the man, pushes his arm out of the way, and headbutts him. The man, dazed, takes a step back and Athena stabs him in the throat. The woman continues to scream, pleading with Athena to stop. The man, in shock, grabs his throat, attempting to stop the blood from squirting. He begins to fall to his knees. Athena walks up to him and finishes the job. As she continues to stab him in the neck with her small pocket knife, the man looks at her. Athena turns her eyes away from him. He grabs Athena's shirt, ripping it in one final attempt to defend himself. His hand, holding a piece of Athena's shirt, falls to the concrete. Athena gives him one more stab in the neck, making sure he cannot survive. She stands and makes her way to the back of the alley, into the darkness. The man's date begins to sob, bending over him. Athena makes her way to a local river, throws the knife into it, and washes the blood off her hands. She stares at a nearby bridge and the city's skyline just behind it. She stares for a while, then leaves. She makes her way back to the brothel. It is late, so she is hoping to make her way upstairs, take a bath, and tend to the scratches on her ear and face without being noticed. She enters through the back, making her way through the kitchen and then to the ballroom floor. As she heads for the stairway, she hears someone call her name. She stops walking, turns towards the voice, and sees it's her Madame Lucille. Lucille gives Athena a knowing look, then approaches. She looks at Athena's face for a moment, then pushes her hair to the side, revealing the scratches. Rage flashes across her eyes. Lucille then says, "You have a client." Before Athena has a chance to protest, Lucille tells her it's Empress. Athena's heart sinks at the name. She puts her head down in anguish and begs Lucille, "No, not tonight, please." Lucille steps close to Athena and says in a low tone, "You will see him. Tell him to give me 15 minutes. I need to bathe." Before Lucille could respond, Empress interjects, "I'll help you with that." Athena looks at Empress. He stands there, short, slender, brown-complexioned. He is beautiful, his almond-shaped eyes pierce down to her very soul as they gaze upon her. He has curly hair, short-cropped at the sides, with a long and wavy top that hangs over the left side of his face. He wears a meticulously trimmed beard and mustache, trimmed down to stubbles along his chiseled face. His stance is feminine with one hip out. He is wearing high-heeled boots that lead up to tight-fitting silk pants. For a top he has on a tailored purple blazer, the bottom tied tightly to his waist with a large black belt. The blazer is open, revealing his chest, sparsely covered with curly hair. The collars of the blazer are exaggerated and colored black, flaring out on each side. It also has large shoulder pads that, combined with his thin waist, gives him a triangular silhouette. He walks towards Athena and says, "Come on, let's go." "That's okay," Athena answers in a soft tone. "It's better than waiting down here." Empress begins to smirk at Athena. "Besides, You know how much I love giving you a bath. Athena looks away from Empress as a gentle smile begins to creep across her face. She looks back at him and can't help but feel flustered. God, he's prettier than I am, she thinks to herself. 30 minutes later, the two are upstairs in a special suite. There is an old-style freestanding tub in the middle of the room. Athena lies back in the tub, filled with hot water. Empress is behind her, combing her hair. Athena is relaxed but always feels awkward with this client. Empress is an elite first-tier arena fighter. He is one of the few fighters expected to go to the championships this year. Having an affinity for women, he would frequent this brothel when Athena started working there. Once he learned of Athena and who she was, he took a liking to her. He started to come to the brothel and see her exclusively. He's a high-profile client, so Lucille always demanded that Athena spend time with him, no matter how she felt. They rarely have sex. Mostly, they just spend time together and conversate. Sometimes, Empress says nothing at all, lies in the bed with her, and stares. He would gaze at her with the deepest sense of adulation. Athena would always be flattered by this, but at the same time found it creepy. He confuses her. Athena gets that she is who she is, but for someone as high profile as Empress to have such an affinity for her, it doesn't make sense. But still, he pays well, tips even better, and there's rarely any physical touch involved. As she lays back in the tub, with Empress continuing to comb her hair, her thoughts drift to Jennifer. Their days of training together at the slave camp. How she was one of the first girls she met when she joined Gabriella's gladiator school. Jennifer was born into slavery, so she began training around the age of 8 or 9. She would help Athena early on with drills and understanding how to properly wield a sword. As Athena began to excel, Jennifer would then become her greatest rival, being the most experienced female student her age. This rivalry was friendly, though, and would bring the two ever closer. They kept each other sharp, confided in each other, and loved each other dearly. Athena's thoughts then flashed to when she lost Jennifer. She sees her eyes stare lifelessly forward as those dog-like abominations pulled at her dead body. She shakes her head to clear the thought. Feeling her shake her head, Empress asks, "What's the matter?" "Nothing," Athena responds. "Thinking of Jennifer again?" Empress asks. Athena sighs uncomfortably, squirming a bit. She is often surprised at how well Empress knows her. It's almost as if they're in a true relationship, not this bizarre string of transactions. There was something weird about those preliminaries. I've seen some harsh ones, but those monstrosities last year were extra ridiculous, Empress comments. "Yeah," Athena says in agreement. Athena always took responsibility for what happened that day, losing her entire team, and losing them so suddenly, leading them around that corner and into a hail of bullets. Still, for so many of the abominations to be armed with firearms, it felt far too lopsided, considering that prospects are not allowed to enter the preliminaries with projectile weapons. She never thought about it suspiciously, though, until Empress began to put those thoughts in her head. He would often speculate about some sort of malcontent by those who run the arena games, that it was made harder purposefully for some reason. Perhaps, but Athena always takes what he has to say with a grain of salt, considering he's always paranoid about the arena committee conspiring against arena fighters. Empress puts Athena's comb to the side and begins to massage her scalp. She sighs in pleasure, despite herself. Empress then says to her, "But even though those motherfuckers threw everything at you and criminal, you two were like, 'Fuck that, you ain't killing me.'" Athena chuckles at Empress' comment. Criminal, he's referring to Miguel. He took on the name as he moved on to become an arena fighter. After his first season, he won Rookie of the Year. Now in his second season, he is world famous for his incredible skills and showmanship. He is expected to become a first-tier fighter next season. While Athena often feels regret over what has happened to her, she always felt happy for Miguel. Empress pulls back her hair and runs his fingers along the scratches on her ear. She flinches in reaction. "Out on the prowl again?" Empress asks. Athena does not answer. She's never told him about her other job, but one night he caught her in the act. Truthfully, he followed her without her noticing. As all do, he disapproves of her taking these contracts. Empress reaches towards the ground and grabs a jar of ointment. He takes a scoop of it in 2 of his fingers and begins to rub it on the scratches. "You're gonna fuck yourself up out there. And for what?" "Peanuts." Empress wipes his hands off on a towel, then continues, "You know, if you want to earn money, there's better ways." "Yeah? Do tell." Athena responds with sarcasm. "I know what's going on," Empress responds, as he begins to rub her shoulders. "You lost more than your arm that day. I had never seen someone like you in the arena before. You moved like a lioness with the wings of a hawk." Athena smiles at his comment. He's always had a way with words. Empress continues, "I have a friend. She runs an underground league. It's unsanctioned, dirty, but it pays. Even with one arm, I know you can dominate. Athena's stomach sinks at the mention of an underground league. When she first started to compete outside of her slave camp, Gabriella would take her to underground fights. They were smelly, smoky, and undignified. It was a great way for her to cut her teeth, but she was happy to put those types of leagues behind her. The thought of returning to one now seems demeaning. But any more demeaning than the back alley contracts she's been taking? As Athena contemplates, Empress leans forward and kisses her on the ear, whispering, "Just consider it." After the bath, Empress and Athena go back to her room. They lay in her bed for a while, watching highlights from recent arena games on his mobile device. There's a lot of talk about a new competitor, Epiphany. She's making a real splash. Athena finds herself a bit jealous of her, but impressed by her unique style. As Athena sees Empress to the brothel's exit, she asks him, "What is your friend's name?" "The one with the league?" "Tigress." Athena is familiar with Tigress. She is a mid-tier arena fighter, a brutal, middle-aged journey fighter. This makes Athena even more uncomfortable with the idea. Still, if it gets her out of taking petty assassination contracts, it's worth the while. "Can you set up an introduction? I'll do you one better. I'll take you to the league personally and sign you up. They won't turn you away when they see you're with me, and with your reputation, they'll give you purse fights off bat." Athena agrees with this and gives Empress a kiss goodbye. The next day, she meets with Empress in the morning. He picks her up in his vehicle. Fitting an arena fighter of his stature, it's a luxurious car. While Athena finds the exterior to be rather plain-looking, the interior speaks comfort. She sinks into the tan leather seat. The floor is lined with suede. The dashboard lights up with exotic blue hues, made more noticeable by the vehicle's tinted windows. He starts the vehicle, turns on some music, and they take off. About 15 minutes later, they are close to a dock area in the capital, just outside of the bay. They approach a large warehouse-like building. They go inside. It's busy. There are competitors all around. Most are quietly training, the soft shuffling sound of their feet against concrete, mats, and canvas. Towards the center, there is a table next to a large beam. There are several people sitting there, conversing with each other while working on tablets. Empress walks over to them, and Athena follows. They all look up at Empress but seem unimpressed. One smiles and greets him, knowing him personally. They converse for a moment, then he introduces Athena. They all look at her with discerning expressions. They are a bit off-putting, turning from cheer to stoicism as they gauge her. Empress notices the tension and goes on to tell them that she is the Athena from last year's preliminaries. "You're that Athena?" one of the attendants asks in surprise. Empress rolls his eyes and looks at the attendant and says, "Yes, bitch, that Athena." The attendant, a short young woman about Athena's age with a pixie-style haircut, looks back at Empress and replies, "She's the Athena." Empress recoils and answers, "Yes, bitch. Want me to spell her name for you?" The attendant looks back at Athena for a moment. Then another attendant comments, "Well, she's got the arm right." Athena is starting to lose her temper, but manages to remain still and quiet. The female attendant looks where Athena's left arm used to be, then to her face, with a questioning expression. She then turns to Empress and says, "Okay, I'll tell you what. See that obstacle course over there?" The attendant points behind where Empress is standing. "If she can complete that course under a minute and a half, I'll believe you and sign her up." Athena looks behind her at the course. It is a large, complicated gladiatorial training course. It reaches high into the air, about 20 feet up. Due to its size, complexity, and the fact that she only has one arm, Athena does not believe she can finish the course in that time. Even with two arms, it would be too difficult. Empress, not even turning around to look at the course, tells the female attendant, "Bitch, shut up and hand over that tablet." He reaches to snatch the tablet from her, but she pulls it back. She smiles at Empress and says, I'm not allowing you to pass off that one-armed prostitute as a gladiator." Athena is insulted and surprised by the comment. The attendant looks back at Athena and notices her expression. She says to Athena, "That's right. I recognize you from Lucille's. I have to pick up my brother from that hellhole almost every Saturday." Empress sighs, turns around and looks at the obstacle course. He opens his eyes wide and twists his expression. He turns back to the attendant and squeals, "Ain't nobody running that obstacle course in a minute and a half." The attendant leans forward onto the table and looks up at Empress with a smirk. She then stands, takes off her shirt, revealing a tight-fitting black tank top underneath, and throws her shirt onto the floor. She walks around from the back of the table and towards the obstacle course. She's a bit shorter than Athena, slender yet toned. She struts with confidence, wearing black sweatpants and white sneakers. She runs up to the beginning of the course. She makes her way up a set of metal steps, then down a short runway to a set of parallel walls closely set together. She jumps side to side to the top of those walls. From there, she runs up to a set of rising platforms. She times her jumps to reach each platform before they rise out of her reach. Next, there's a corridor filled with rotating poles padded with foam. The poles rotate into and out of the corridor, and the attendant runs through, dodging each pole as they swing towards her. Next, she makes her way through a series of moving monkey bars, swinging vertical platforms, and rotating spheres with handles attached to them, having to grab and swing from the handles and avoid falling into a pool of water. She jumps down several feet, pushes past a few standing pieces of foam representing enemy soldiers, jumps over a few narrow platforms held over another pool of water with ropes, and climbs up a few more obstacles to the very top of the course. She reaches the very top platform of the course and rings a bell. She looks down at Athena and Empress with a smirk. She then yells at one of her fellow attendants at the table, "Time?" The attendant, looking down at his watch, yells back, 1 minute, 45 seconds. The attendant slides down a rope to the ground floor. She swaggers past Athena, telling her, "Your turn." Athena looks at Empress. He starts to shake his head and motion towards her. Before he could protest, Athena tells him, "It's okay." She then looks at the attendant, looking back at her from behind the table, with a smirk still across her face. Athena then faces the obstacle course. She's wearing sandals, kicks them off, and without hesitation runs up to the beginning of the obstacle course. She jumps up the steps and onto the raised runway. As she runs up to the parallel walls, she sees herself traversing them before she does. She plans her movements mentally before executing. After she successfully makes her way to the top of the walls, she faces the moving platforms. She watches their movements and times her jumps perfectly to make her way across them. She pulls herself up to the mouth of the corridor with the rotating poles with her one arm. She navigates the corridor with ease and then faces her first real challenge. She stands there, looking at the first set of monkey bars. They are a simple straight set, but they are spread far apart, and their diameters are larger than usual. This would have presented little challenge for her when she had 2 arms, but with one it seems nearly impossible. Stressed for time, she plans fast and jumps to the first bar. She grabs a hold of the bar, sees herself perform the next move in her head, tightens her belly, tenses her shoulder, swings her body back, then pendulums her legs forward. She lets go of the bar and allows her body to fly forward towards the next one. She reaches it, grabs it, and adrenaline shoots through her body. She then feels the pain of the skin on her bare hand stretching from grabbing the bar, the weight of her body pulling on it. Her face scrunches in reaction, but she knows she does not have much time to waste, so she immediately jumps to the next bar, then the next. She reaches the end of the monkey bars and moves on to a set of rotating handles. Athena remembers when the attendant grabbed these handles, they would move towards her in a spiral motion. She sees how she can navigate them, imagines herself doing so, and begins to execute. She grabs the first handle, and it begins to rotate as she pulls herself up. Before it rotates too far, she uses her forward momentum to torpedo herself forward, letting go of the handle. As she flies forward, she rotates her arm and reaches out. She grabs the next handle, repeats the motion, and successfully grabs the next. She repeats this all the way to the end. After she successfully lands on the other side of the obstacle, she looks down at everyone. Empress is watching with his arms crossed, a studious expression across his face. The challenging attendant stares up at her with a glossed look in her eyes. The others remain fixed on her attentively. Athena refocuses and makes her way to the next obstacle. She is beginning to feel fatigued. It is a reminder of just how out of shape she's become over the last year. She breathes deep and pushes forward, knowing she still has a way to go until the end. She reaches the next obstacle and observes a large board with the narrow side facing her, hanging at a 45-degree angle. There are 2 pieces of plastic protruding at the bottom. On the other side of it is another board, the broad side facing, with a handle going across it about halfway up its face. Athena can only think of one way of defeating this challenge. She again visions her execution, takes in another deep breath, and jumps forward. She grabs one of the ends of the protruding plastic, groaning in pain as the weight of her body pulls on her arm. She then lifts her legs up, curling her knees towards her forehead. She hoists her feet above her head, towards the board, grabs a hold of each side of the extended pieces of plastic with them, and lets go with her hand. She hangs there, upside down, and begins to swing back and forth. Once she has enough momentum, she lets go with her feet and flies towards the second board. She barely makes it, her body slamming against the board. She grabs the handle and pulls herself up. As the board swings back and forth, she navigates to the other side of it and jumps from it to a nearby platform. She's nearing the end, just a few more obstacles to go. Next is a set of barrels with handles on them. They'll spin as she grabs a hold of them. Without hesitation, she jumps and grabs the handle of the first barrel. She swings her legs behind her, then in front of her, and uses the momentum to jump to the next barrel. As she grabs a handle to the next barrel, the skin on her palm rips. She yells out in pain and scrunches her eyes closed. Her hand begins to slip. She is now holding on with 3 fingers. As her hand finally begins to give, she instinctively reaches up with the left arm that is no longer there. She falls through the air and hits the mat beneath her shoulder first. Athena is in agony, rolling to her back, grinding her teeth while her eyes shut tight. The attendant walks onto the mat and yells at Athena, "Oops, looks like you didn't quite make it." Athena lifts herself into a knelt position and says, "I can go again." "Sorry, no do-overs," the attendant replies. Empress walks close to the attendant and tells her, "Okay, you've had your fun. Now stop fucking around and sign her up." The attendant turns to Empress, shrugs, and says, "Fine. If you want to state your reputation on a cheap one-armed hoe, be my guest." She walks away and back to her tablet. Empress goes over to Athena to help her stand. Athena declines and stands on her own. She looks over to the attendant and asks Empress, "Who is that?" "That annoying hoe? She's Jessica." Athena, while rubbing her shoulder, states, "I'm gonna fucking kill her one day." Thank you for listening to Royal Jelly Chapter 6, Done Dirt Cheap. Stay tuned for Chapter 7, Fight for Survival, coming soon.